Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Art from 6 Feet Apart. We are doing the Mesa Verde cliff dwellings right now from the Indigenous Americas unit. And you are looking at a vista of Colorado where you have the Cliff Palace, which is what we're going to study from the Puebloan peoples, the ancient peoples, from about the time of about 1000 ACE to about 1300 ACE. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here is an image of our cliff palace, one of about 600 different cliff dwellings that are located here in Colorado and Mesa Verde Park. And as you can see, these indigenous people have built a community within the cliffs. It's part residential and part ceremonial. They were agricultural people, so they're farming basically corn. So it's kind of interesting that they decided to build their structures up in the cliffs versus a more convenient location like down by the water or maybe up by their crops. But instead, they seek shelter within a much more difficult to access cliff area. So you got to ask yourself, why? And it could be the weather. You get protection from the sun, which I'm totally for, or you get protection from rain or snow. You're probably cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter time. So, temperature is all good. And even they could be like hiding from an enemy that they're trying to camouflage themselves with the organic materials being all one color. Very hard to see unless you're looking specifically for it. So it's a good way to protect themselves too from other tribes around the area. Let's go on and take a closer look. Here we are in the midst of the community. They, again, have living quarters. They have storage areas, some so small that you can only stick your arm in. And then there's some circular areas that are for ceremonial purposes that you start to see about right here. It's made of mud, when that's the mortar to stick all these stones together. And you've got some wooden retractable ladders that they would use to get in and out of some of the structures, but also in and out of the main complex as well. You have one-story buildings, you have four-story buildings that go from like the floor to the ceiling of the cliffs. And this would probably house about 100 people in this particular area in Colorado. College Board loves their site plans, so here's one for you. You can see kind of the difference in structures. Most of these rectangular or square structures are the storage spaces, the residential areas like the family communities, and then you have these circular areas all around, mostly near the front meaning facing out to the valley. And these are the religious ceremonial structures called the kivas. And this term right here, a little exclamation point, boom, that's terrible. But kiva is a circular underground, like subterranean pit. And you can see a picture of it right here. You can see them from afar over in this left-hand image. And the people would gather here to probably pay tribute to their gods. They might, sink a ritual liquid down in this little hole called the sipapu. And then there was a fire pit for warmth and probably also an important part of the ritual. Vents for the air to get in and out. These pillars to support the wooden roof that would have been on at the time, hence why you need a vent so you don't pass out. So this doesn't look exactly like what it would have looked like in the past. But these areas are all over the place, connected to the family areas. So probably each like family group or small grouping of people would have their own kiva to hold their own ceremonial practices, maybe dedicated to the agricultural gods, because they're growing crops, especially corn. And then in and amongst these buildings, we found murals, pottery. It was definitely an important area for these people during a few hundred years until about 1300, when there was probably a drought that had been in effect for a couple of decades, and they just couldn't sustain life there anymore. So they abandoned the site probably around 1300. But again, that's the Puebloan Mesa Verde dwelling, the cave palace area, residential complex, ceremonial complex in the midst of Colorado. You'd find others in Arizona, New Mexico, and an important part of our American history and within architecture. So hope that helped. Take a look at your notes also, and Khan Academy has a great article and some videos on it as well. Take care.